My name is Craig Richard. I'm on my way to Tampa, Florida, after being in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, Prior to that, I've been in 3 other states. I was in Louisville, Kentucky, Texas, both the Dallas market and Houston, and then started my economic development career in Richmond, Virginia. It transcends into the environment. And so the culture of a community transcends into how they go about doing business. Is it very laid back? Are they very aggressive? And it helps you understand how you want to approach your assignment from that perspective. But I've been in some pretty fun places that had pretty unique cultures. And I think directly it impacted their philosophy on economic development and how aggressive they wanted to be. And as a result, you kind of tailor your style and your leadership towards that. Oh, without a doubt, understanding the impact that you're having on a community is the most inspiring part of your job. After a while, you get to look around the community and see what projects you've actually had a role in playing in. After you get a chance to see some of these things come to fruition, and then you look behind the curtain and see the people that you've actually helped, it's a pretty, it's a way, it's something that makes you feel warm, and you feel like this is more of a calling than just a profession. You feel like you're really doing something good for a community. You're providing economic prosperity for families. There are times when I've been in a situation where I'd be up speaking in front of a crowd, and you look out in the crowd and you're thinking, wow, these are all people that have been impacted by in some form or fashion the work that we've done. And it really means a lot to people. I think one of the projects that I'm particularly proud about is the General Motors plant expansion in Arlington, Texas. It was roughly about 3,000 employees. And what makes this project so interesting was that it wasn't your typical sexy project that is locating to your community. It was actually about keeping a really important company in your community. And there were some doubts on whether or not they required any assistance to expand. And so there was a sales job that you had to do on the local community and the local decision makers, as well as the corporate decision makers. So in the end, we were very convincing that companies, even plants, they are competing within the corporation. So they may have 3 or 4 other plants that are producing the same product. And so at some point, they're going to decide where to best invest those dollars. And if that community is supportive of that plant, it gives them a competitive advantage. And so the way a lot of communities express that support is through various incentives, various investments around the organization. It may be putting in a new street, street lights, signal lights, the labor. And so having a chance to work the full realm of factors that impact a company, we worked on things like, the labor. We're helping with labor negotiations, helping with the infrastructure that was surrounding the plant, helping with incentives. And then it culminated in Arlington being selected as the location for a $600 million expansion, which brought all of the SUV manufacturing into Arlington, Texas. And there were several, as well documented. GM then afterwards kind of went through a bit of a turnaround themselves. And fortunately, that plant was positioned to withstand the troubles that GM was experiencing. And as a result, you look at the 3,000 people whose jobs we saved, and then the countless number of suppliers and vendors that were associated with it, and you couldn't help but be proud about the impact that had. Well, there are ways that economic developers measure the impact that they have. You have economic impacts, and you have the amount of taxes being generated in a community, the number of people that are being employed, the houses that are being supported through the number of jobs that you're bringing. But all of those, to me, are numbers, and it quantifies, the success of your results. To me, being able to look at a community and see the vibrancy of that community and to see the activity that's occurring in your community is probably the best determinant of your results. To know that you've helped to create a vibrant economy, that you've helped in some form or fashion to raise the economic prosperity in your community, to help bridge the wealth disparities in your community. Those are all very meaningful things that economic developers have a role in their community. And so, a lot of folks, as an executive, you have to look at the numbers. It tells you what you need to be working on and where the improvements need to occur. But it's more important to look behind the numbers to really understand the impact of what you're doing. IEDC has been a tremendous support network for me. It's been a tremendous place where it honed my economic development skills, where I've gathered, really important information about the profession, about the best practices that are occurring all across the country and in key countries. But I think more importantly, the relationships that you build when you're part of an organization like this. Over my 20-plus year career, I've gone through several different jobs and different communities, and being able to pick up the phone and talk to your counterparts in other communities that are like yours or different or similar or close, it gives you a tremendous amount of comfort and confidence that you can help find the answers to whatever you may be experiencing. I have several mentors. You have to have mentors in this business. As a young professional coming up, you're oftentimes exposed to some of the economic development professionals that you think are just knocking it out the park, because when you come to these conferences and events and seminars and summits and so forth, you see folks and you hear about some of the things that they're experiencing, that they're doing, and you can't help but want to be like them. And so some of the folks that have been mentors of mine include people like Ed Nelson, Ronnie Bryant in Charlotte, Jay Moon in Mississippi. Jeff Finkel has been a great mentor. And then a lot of my folks that I went to EDI with, we call each other and stay in contact with each other just to see how you're doing, and then I offer up any suggestions on issues that you may be facing. So it's been, this organization has meant a lot in terms of my professional development, but also some of my social contacts. I consider these not only just colleagues, but dear friends. There are external factors that are impacting the profession and the environment in which we do business. And some of those factors include political factors. It's very uncertain times for economic developers. There are state organizations that are having their funding cut for political reasons. On local levels, there are trickle-down types of political battles that are being fought about where investment needs to occur and corporate welfare and things of that nature. So you have that set of dynamics and environment that's creating some uncertainty about the profession and how you go about doing your job. Not to mention, there's macro factors that are at work as well, globalization and the quality and quantity of your labor force and things of that nature. So, economic developers are in a pretty interesting, those old Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times. Well, we're living in interesting times right now. And economic developers are having to adjust, their leadership styles, the way they talk to people, the way they get things done to compensate for some of these these challenges that we're facing nowadays. Funding is always a challenge for economic development organizations, whether you're part of a public-private partnership or whether you're part of a public agency or a purely private agency. Those are always opportunities that give you some uncertainty, if you will. You know, from the people that you actually help, you know, from the project side itself, they'll reach back out to you and let you know how much they appreciated the support and the assistance that you provided. From the community side, you know, I remember one time in Houston, we had we were raising money for the second part of our economic development fund, and we wanted to go around and get testimonials from the folks that we were actually able to help. And we didn't just interview, you know, the corporate decision makers and C-level. We actually interviewed the people that received the jobs. And to hear them say thank you in their own voices was very meaningful. So the feedback that we were receiving were, hey, what you're doing is important and it's making a difference. And you know, again, it gives you that sense of accomplishment, that sense of achieving something that's really important. Oh, technology today is fascinating and is moving at the speed of light. And just when you think that you have caught up to all the technological advancements that it has to offer the economic development profession, you quickly find out that you don't. So something else changes, and there's a new, you know, whiz-bang tool that you need to adapt or adopt to. So the kids today that are coming up in economic development, they're really fortunate to have these tools at their disposal. The challenge is going to be not to become overly reliant on those technology tools, because at the end of the day, it's still a relationship business. You know, it's about building relationships, maintaining relationships, and so it's important to be able to know how to get things done. And in the environment that we're working in today, you're going to know when you need to know when you need to take a back seat to something, when you need to lead, and like we were having this conversation yesterday, when you need to lead, partner, follow, or get it the hell out of the way. So it's important that you have that emotional IQ to understand what role you need to play in. The advice would be simply to check your ego at the door, you know, and know that it's okay to lead from behind, to lead by serving others. And if you can do that, I think in large part you can be successful in economic development. Just by its very nature, you're doing the work for others anyway. So if you can know that, you know, put the recognition for yourself on hold, then I think you'll be successful. And I think it's important to understand that, you know, you won't get a lot of pat on the backs, you know, from people. And if you're managing folks, it's important that you pat others on the back. It's important that you recognize and celebrate the wins that you have. But don't get hung up on that celebration. You know, I have a saying that we have to celebrate on the run. You know, you acknowledge that victory and then you keep moving forward to try to achieve the next victory. And that's really kind of how we need to operate nowadays. That's the way I've been operating, and I think it's been very successful. Staff responds to that, and you get your gratification by recognizing others, but you also understand that there's still work to do. I think a rallying cry for economic developers is that you're making a difference. And when you wake up in the morning knowing that you're making a difference, it actually makes it easier to get out of bed. You don't even need an alarm clock to get out of bed and do what you need to do. And that's what kind of keeps us all going. That we know that we're in a profession that, you know, probably doesn't pay the highest wages. You don't get the most recognition. So you're doing it for more of internal purposes and drive. And when you realize what you're doing and you understand the impact that you're having, it makes it that much easier. So the rallying cry is, you know, be proud of the success that you're bringing to your community, recognize it, and go get some more. The future of economic development it's evolving, and with technology, with the political climate that we're in, with globalization, economic developers have to evolve as well. Even the structure of economic development organizations are evolving. And so you have to be able to adapt to those changes and be fluid and flexible in the way that you approach things. Rarely will you encounter a situation where you actually address it the same exact way. You have to constantly be aware of these changes that are coming down the pipeline and adjusting your style and the means and your processes to get things done. So the new economic developer has to be fluid, has to be nimble, has to be flexible, have to be innovative. And those are some key qualities that I think economic developers are going to need in this next generation. You can't help but get connected to a community when you live in the community. For example, this new assignment that I'm going to in Tampa, I'm really fired up about it because you can see the potential that it has. And you know that this particular community hasn't received the recognition that it could be and should be receiving. And you know you have an opportunity to do something about that. The last thing that you want to be in economic development is a best kept secret. So when you start bringing results and successes to a community, and then you get an opportunity to help others celebrate that, it means a lot. And you can't help but get an emotional attachment to that community. After all, I'm going to be raising my kids in this community. It's important that my family has an opportunity to experience a successful and vibrant community. So, yeah, the emotional attachment comes, some more than others, but at the end of the day, you know the reasons why you're doing this. And you know that you're doing it not for selfish reasons, but for more altruistic reasons to get prosperity into this community. And you end up forming an emotional attachment to that community and to your work. So, yeah, I know a lot of economic developers that have moved around, and if you don't get emotionally attached to your community, you may be in trouble. So it's important to just take it and experience it and enjoy the experience and just appreciate it.